everybody to Vital Wisdom with me, Dr. Eli Camp, and I have a special guest today, Dr. Preety Shah. We went to medical school together over 20 years ago. Like we started school together, 24 years ago, and we became really good friends, and we are both vitalists. And I'll let Dr. Shah tell you all a little bit about herself. But today we're talking about so I got up on a soapbox a couple weeks ago. I was going through social media and I saw some posts about integrative medicine, and that just like I jumped right up on that box because I have very strong feelings about this idea of integrative medicine, at least as a vitalist. And so what's the first thing I did is I picked up the phone and I called my friend and I was like, can you believe this? Why are they using this word? What? And so, as she almost always does, she said, well, wait a minute. There's a lot of other perspectives to consider here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, thank you for being here, Dr. Preety Shah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, what you're doing, practice, things like that.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Eli. It's always a pleasure and fun with our conversations and where it takes us. Yeah, I am in Illinois, and my practice is in Elgin. And I practice with 4 or 5 other doctors, chiropractors. I myself have a chiropractic degree as well. And I have a full busy practice. I love what I do every day. Very vitalistic in my practice. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And you have 2 kiddos.
I have 2 kids, 13-year-old teenager
Ah,
and my sweet 7-year-old girl, Nitya.
oh, I've watched these two grow up, and it has been so joyful to see their shenanigans at times. I really love that. So, yeah, uh, Dr. Shaw graduated from Southwest College like I did, and then you took a few years to start your family,
Yep.
and you started chiropractic school in the midst of that, right?
Yeah. Well, no. So I right after graduating, I got married, moved to Illinois, and realized I needed to have another degree to practice independently here in Illinois. So I started actually first I started teaching at the college at National University. And then a couple years into it, I was teaching and um, going to another clinic to practice, which was also in Illinois. And then after that, I started actually working towards my chiropractic degree. So once we did that, I was then able to get my chiropractic license. I practiced for some time, and then I took a break to raise my family. Uh, and
Right.
then, yeah, right after the break, I came back. I went back to teaching, started getting, um, I did a lot of learning again, just
Right.
to make sure that I knew what I was talking about. So,
Right.
and
Yeah, this
with
is
the
always
help of NMI, conversations with you, shadowing other doctors, it took me a couple of years to get back into the swing of things.
right, right. She mentioned NMI. That's the Naturopathic Medicine Institute, and the kind of medicine that they teach and promote. It's a way of practicing medicine, and it's a vitalistic way. So I haven't talked a lot about NMI on my podcast, but it really is a place to learn how to use tools. So, right, all of us doctors go to school and we all learn very similar things in the first couple of years of our training, pathology and physiology and anatomy and all this stuff. And then we go into clinical training, and then we get done and we have this big bag of tools that we can use. And how we use them depends on, I think, who your mentors and teachers and clinical training opportunities that you find shapes the type of doctor you become and how you use those tools. And both Preeti and I are involved in the Naturopathic Medicine Institute, where we learn to use our tools in a vitalistic way. And what does that mean? I'll remind everybody, because I do say this on every episode. The vitalist believes the body has the ability to heal itself. It's built in, it's how we were created. And in order for it to heal itself in the most optimal way, it has to have what it needs. It has to not be poisoned and have, obstacles to cure in the way. And that the innate healing has to be stimulated in some way, however that is. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So I think that brings me straight to this idea of integrative medicine. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell all of you what got me going, like what plucked that string that made me jump up and wave my arms and say, wait a minute. And that is, I believe, now you're going to hear something different from Preeti, but I believe there is no such thing as integrative medicine. I believe that a naturopathic doctor who practices in a vitalistic way can use any tool that they need to restore the body to health. Our only rule is that everything we do is supposed to preserve health first. That's our first, all doctors, preserve life, keep somebody from dying, right? That's our number one rule. First, do no harm. But really, that number one rule is preserve someone's life. So keep them from dying. And then we start to diverge very quickly, the different types of practitioners. After that very first rule of keep someone from dying, and if something is needed to preserve someone's life, regardless of what that tool is, pharmacy, surgery, some kind of medical imaging, some kind of intervention for mental health, it doesn't matter what it is to me. If it's needed to preserve that person's life, then you use it, because that's our job. And then after that, we use the tools that we have been taught and that we have at our disposal to start the journey of restoring the human that's in front of us to better health, to optimal health, so that their body can take over and do the healing it needs to do. And so the example that I am talking about is someone said, oh, I'm an integrative doctor, and if I need an echocardiogram, I'm going to order an echocardiogram. And my first thought was, well, duh, that doesn't make you integrative. That makes you a really good doctor. You can still be a vitalist and get an echocardiogram. Because if that's what you need to discover what's going on with the patient, that doesn't make you integrative. That just makes you a good doctor. So that's where I was, right? When I called Dr. Shah. Now, Preeti, say all of those amazing things you said to me when we were talking on the phone, and you said, wait.
I think so. First, let me back up and say that when we talk about Naturopathic Medicine Institute, it really saved my practice. The way I practice, going through the courses of NMI, and before and after looks very different. Okay, and before that, NMI, I would say I was trying to be vitalist, but did not know how to. And I was actually practicing green allopathy, not knowing that I was doing that, right? And that's where I'm coming from, is that people may have the best of intentions and are trying to be vitalist or trying to do the best for their patients, but they're just doing what they know, right? And so, I don't see things as black and white, and I don't see things as right and wrong. I see things as, hey, this person is doing the best that they know because this is what they know. Now, after the NMI training, uh, the way I approach patients, the way I approach my treatment plan, the way I understand disease is very different. And it's just that little shift in the outlook, which took a full year to understand. And how many conversations, Eli, with you, right?
Yeah.
Over and
Yeah.
over, right? And that year, I mean, I would call you every time I had a new patient and be like, okay, now what? What do I do
Yeah.
here? Right? And before starting the practice, I'm like, well, I'm not sure, you know. And so it took me a full year to have that mindset shift. But once I was there, now it doesn't, um, I'm confident. I'm more confident in my practice. I'm more confident in treating patients, and I see the results. I have a busy practice, and I see it over and over and over again with complicated cases,
Right.
and it's just the methodology of how to take a look at the person in front of you.
Give us an example for our listeners. So take somebody with high blood pressure or
Yeah, sure.
okay. So give us a before walking fully in the paradigm of vitalism and an after.
Okay. So before the vitalistic training, I would take a look at this patient and I would think about, okay, what are the things I need to do? What are the supplements I need to give to this person, right? So yes, because of our medical school training, we do the basics, the physical exam, right? The vital signs, and then we know how to look at their medications and understand the complications of the medications and also understand, the herb drug interaction. So all of those things, the basic things are covered. Now I'm looking at, okay, what kind of medications do I need to, or supplements do I need to give to this patient, right? And that's where my mind would go to.
Right.
So I would end up with, I don't know, 10 different supplements I wanted to start this patient off with. And I would be searching to, okay, I'm not sure. Should I, start them with all 10 of these? I'm not sure where to start, right? Because all of these above are important.
Right.
And not, and then I would also work on their diet. It's not that I would not work on their diet. I would work on their diet and the supplements. It was all together. After the vitalistic training, I was able to understand, okay, this is a person in front of me with these stressors in their life, right? And the stressors can be multiple and it can be various. So I start my practice off, my first office visit with 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, I'm getting an overview of their life in a holistic fashion. So, understanding what those stressors are. Those could be mental, emotional, those could be mineral vitamin deficiencies, those could be diet related, it could be hormonal, right? Um, so, understanding the stressors is the focus, right? And then after that, then we do what's a foundational treatment plan first, which is the diet and the lifestyle. And we talk a lot about that before starting any supplements,
Right.
right? So we do that. And then there may be a couple of supplements that I might start right away. So, if this person has a big digestive issue, then I'm doing that. I might start them on a calcium magnesium. But really, the focus is not the supplements at this point. It is the diet,
Right.
which was missing
Right.
before. And that, and it's, I got there because of understanding that this um, person is having these stressors that I need to understand and give the appropriate treatments. So I don't
So
know
if,
if I'm doing justice.
well, so you were treating hypertension individualistically, but in the
No, I was treating the person.
no
That
before
is the big difference, right? I was not treating the hypertension, I was treating the
anymore.
person.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And before the vitalistic treatment, I was treating the hypertension.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
Exactly.
the exact difference. Yeah.
Yes. Interesting.
And it it may sound similar, but going through the experience, it's very different.
Yeah.
Uh, and the our discussion was that it is hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether the doctor in front of you is practicing in a vitalistic manner or not,
Yes.
right? Unless you are knee deep,
Yes. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yes. That's what caught my attention when you and I talked, right? I know the difference and you know the difference, but you said something to me. Do you remember?
No.
You said for the person who doesn't know the difference, we have to have a way to communicate with them that gives them confidence that whether you're a vitalist or not a vitalist, you still are a doctor and you're still going to do what is needed, right? We're real doctors and we use those tools. It's why we use the tools. And what we,
Correct.
oh, yes,
Yes, it's the why.
yes,
Yep. And just because I'm a vitalist doesn't mean I think that all medications are wrong or
right,
bad, right? I will actually even have people go to their primary care, even people that don't come to me with primary care doctors. I will say to them, you should have a primary care that you go to once a year to get all your annual exams done, all your imaging done. It's fine. You see me couple times a year to make sure everything is going well. If you have an issue, then we work together to resolve that issue.
right. So, so for people who are new to this whole idea of the vitalistic paradigm, which is give your body what it needs and take out what's poisoning it, right? Make sure you're detoxifying and stimulating your healing ability within your body so that your body can heal itself. For people new to that, it's difficult to tell when two people are using the same language who who is in which paradigm. Not to, I don't want to confuse anyone and make your head hurt on this episode, but integrative sounds very seductive, right? To people who don't know different, integrative sounds like you're using the best of both worlds. But
Correct.
vitalists already do that. That's the point. Vitalists already use the best of all that medicine has to offer because what we're doing is different. We are actually trying to restore the body to health so that it will continue self healing as it was designed to do. And if that is a pharmaceutical, because without it, you're going to die, then that pharmaceutical is what, and in some states, we can prescribe it where we have licensure if needed. Like, let take thyroid, for instance. Say your thyroid, you still have, let's say you still have a thyroid, but your thyroid hormone is so low that you can't make it through the day. And you're having a cardiac problems because your thyroid is so low. You're having problems staying awake and focusing. You're having trouble sleeping because your thyroid hormone is so low. We might prescribe thyroid hormone for you or have your primary care prescribe it if we're in a state where a naturopathic doctor can't prescribe, but that's a temporary fix, right? It's not a lifelong prescription. At least that's the hope. And that's the intent from the beginning is that's not a lifelong prescription. We ask the question instead, well, why is this person's thyroid hormone not at the right level? What has happened to the endocrine system? And maybe we even make it not so specific. We say, what, like Preety said, what's stressing this biological organism and has led to the place where the endocrine system isn't functioning. What's the stressor? Because when you fix that, the body starts to heal itself again. And I've treated many people who came to me on thyroid or who we had to put on thyroid, but we got them off after a year or two because we restored health to the body. I'm sure you have those stories too.
Exactly. Going back to your hypertension example, right? Um, all the time. And that's another reason I have a primary care on board is because in Illinois, I don't have the license to take them off their medication. So I will send them back to their primary care with a log. Like, look at my blood pressure. It is actually low. It is
Right,
lower than normal. So we need to get that, decrease the medication dosage so that I'm not getting dizzy,
right.
you see? And so a good doctor will look at that log and say, you're right. We need to
Right.
get you off this medication slowly, right? And so it's harmonious to work that way, right? Because now you are looking at your patient and what's best for them. And again, I through the years of practice, what I have realized is that this medicine is not for everyone. Vitalistic approach is not for everyone, okay? Um, and it is nice to have that decision up to the individual, right? Because some people just go, you know what? I don't want to make changes to my diet. I just want the medication. Fine. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise because it doesn't happen. I've tried,
No, exactly. Me too.
right?
Yeah,
And so it's like, that's fine. But if you are that person who wants to work on your health, who wants to restore your health and get to a place where you are not dependent on a medication, then you're golden, right? You've come to the right place.
right. Well, I think you do this in your practice too, a discovery call or like a, right? So an
Yes.
interview. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is an opportunity for exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
How do your just like what do you do for your discovery call?
So I ask what their goals are first. And then I say to them how I practice. What is exactly what they would expect? And one of those things, I make sure and tell them that we are going to be working on your diet and lifestyle. And so if this is a problem for you, then I'm not the right person and I can refer you to somebody else. But if you are ready and willing to make those changes and be an active part in your health, then you've come to the right place.
Yes.
So,
Mine are very similar. I maybe even give people, well, my calls are 15 to 20 minutes, my discovery calls. And I do the same thing. I explain my approach to medicine. How do I practice medicine? And people always want to know, they always will say, okay, but what would you do for my eczema? What would you do for my thyroid? What would you do for my headaches? What would you do for my low energy levels? And so I try and give them a really good, honest look at what would I do. And I would say to them, well, I want to know everything you eat. I want to know how much of it, where you get it, right? Is it organic or not organic? I want to know how much exercise, what your sleep is, what your stress levels are, what your relationships are like, what supplements you take, what medicate. Like, I want to know all that information. And the first place I'm going to start is by helping you take into your body what is medicine and not poison. And that's substances and food and the air you breathe and how you think and the community that you're a part of. Because what we put into ourselves, not just food, right? But what we put into ourselves, I tell people this, that is what we're made of. And so if you're eating poison and junk and stress and worry and fear and hate, and well, this is what your body uses to create itself. part of that's on a physiological level, which my biochemists out there can wrap their heads around, right? Like molecules of nitrogen and carbon and the minerals and the vitamins, but we're so much more than just those concrete little piece chemical bits, right? Or the way we think and the way we feel. I mean, look at psychoneuroimmunology. The way you think and feel has a direct impact on your immune function. So we are made up of everything that we take into our body. And you're right. I do the same thing. If they're like, because, in the beginning, unless someone really understands this approach of medicine, what they want to do is take something natural instead of a pharmaceutical. That's their point. Can I just take natural stuff for this instead of the pharmacy?
Yeah.
Well, no. It's not how it works from our approach of medicine.
Exactly. And I make sure and tell them this, right? This is not just a substitution because medications are stronger than herbs. So,
Right.
if it usually doesn't work out that way. And it ends up being a band-aid, right? So you can use herbs as band-aids, and that's not what we're doing here.
Right.
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that, but I've actually had to refer patients out. They might come in with a mindset of, yes, this is exactly what I want. Do I even need to do a discovery call? It's kind of annoying. Can I just make that 2-hour appointment? And I try to convince them to be like, this is going to be well worth your time and energy because I'm not interested in wasting my time or wasting your money if this is not a good fit.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. And so for those people that are just wanting to substitute, I say it just, in my experience, it does not work. And I don't.
That's green allopathy.
Yeah.
That's green. Well, she used the term earlier, green allopathy, and some of you may be wondering what that is. And that is trying to use natural substances to treat a condition or a disease or a state, right, of someone. That's what green allopathy is, using the tools to treat the condition or the disease rather
And
than.
what's a good way? Like sometimes, you will have little slips of, okay, am I practicing vitalistic or am I going back to my old ways, right? And one telltale sign for me is when I'm looking and searching for, oh, how do you what herb is used to treat hypertension, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if I'm going on that hunt of like, oh, exactly what is the protocol?
Yes.
Eczema, or what's the protocol for this thyroid? So that's when I know, like, okay, I need to take a step back and rethink this.
Right. Right. Yes, yes. I recently saw a family with 7 teenagers, and 3 are biological and 4 are adopted, but they're all between the ages of 13 and 17. And they all, every single one of them, were suffering with the symptoms of very severe acne all over their body. And they had used all of these topical products, and what's the retinol? Is it retinol A that's very popular to give teenagers for their acne, and these antibiotics, and the doctors had convinced them that their skin was just massively infected and needed all these bacteria cleaned off of it. And they came in to see me, and I said, okay, so it's not bacteria, although if you're scratching at your face, some of those might be infected because you've broken the skin and introduced bacteria, but it's not the bacteria that caused your acne. And it's not, there's nothing wrong with your body. What's happening is your body is not processing the hormones, which is why acne onsets so significantly in the teenage years, right? Topical is not going to help. Now, there are some topical things that could be used to prevent scarring, right? Like healing salves, like calendula ointment and um, lavender, and there's a lot of herbs that will heal the skin and keep it from scarring, but they're not known as acne for treatments. And so, what did we do? This is an example of how we approach this vitalistically. First off, I made every kid write down what they ate. They're teenagers. And this is a family completely unfamiliar with holistic medicine. So, what do you think they're eating? They're eating packaged food, fried food, potato chips, soda, ice cream. Like, I don't even know if any of them had a salad in a month or any fresh living food, right? School, they're all public school kids, so they're eating all public school food. And I don't, so when I was growing up and I went to public school, we had ladies in the kitchen cooking food. But today it's all packaged food from food distributors, and it's laid out in this buffet style where the kids can go get what they want. And what kid is going to get a salad? Come on. No, they're going to get all the packaged hamburgers and like all the stuff. You would get a salad.
My kid does.
My kids would too. My kids would too. They would look at that other stuff, and if they couldn't read the label, they would toss it right back in the bin. So, long story short, what did we do? We cleaned up their diet, which was a massive World War IV. Let me tell you, I'm so glad I was not in that house with those parents and those kids, but they persevered, and they slowly made lists of the types of foods the kids liked. The kids started making their own food because mom said, I am not making 7 different meals, which was a really good thing because that increased their self-sufficiency and their autonomy and their ability to choose. So they got on real food. I'm sure it wasn't 100% toss of all the packaged foods, but they cut it down by easily 80%. We got them on some minerals and some probiotics because when you eat poorly for that long, your gut biome is destroyed, and you have to be able to absorb your nutrients, right? So some probiotics did that. And then I taught them about fermented foods, which the mom called me one day and she said, I walked in and there's cabbage and carrots and celery and onions all over my kitchen counter because my kids are making fermented foods. And I was like, good, this is really good. And then the big thing was understanding that really what they needed was liver support.
Yeah.
Right? We did some castor oil packs on their liver. We did some herbs, dandelion, burdock, milk thistle. I'm missing one. Dandelion, burdock, milk thistle. There's another big one. But anyway, right? To support their liver. And I had them do it as a tea so they weren't swallowing a bunch of pills. And they drank that tea all day. I let them put a little honey in it, like whatever. Okay, 3 months. 3 months later, what do you think? And we did hydro. We did constitutional hydro. The mom bought a constitutional hydro machine, and the girls did hydro on one another. The boys did hydro on one another. 3 months, those kids, their skin is 100% completely clear. And I gave them a little of my salve of the ancients for scars because some of the acne was so bad that they were all afraid they were going to have scars. So a little dab of that to stimulate the skin to grow, like that's the difference.
I had a gentleman in my office with acne a while ago, and he had battled with acne since puberty. So it was a long time. Okay. And he had used all sorts of things for years on end. He had this huge, big routine for his facial cleansers and things like that. And um, now he looks like a different person.
Yeah. Yes. You use homeopathy with him too.
Yes.
I forgot to mention
homeopathy
that
as well.
Yep.
But all of those things that you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
It's the diet, the hydrotherapy. But again, it's not a protocol. It is what that person needed.
Yes.
And I believe actually it's been a while. I don't remember exactly, but this might have been a parasite case. So again, right? So you wouldn't do a parasite test or parasite herbs for everyone that has acne. But
No.
in this particular case, they needed that because
Yes.
that was their stressor,
Yes.
right? So again, to stress the importance of not having a protocol. So when you're looking for a protocol, you're not really practicing vitalistic medicine.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a good stick to measure yourself by. So so to bring this back around to integrative, so I don't keep y'all longer than the time we're supposed to keep you. Uh, how do you know? Because that's what struck me when I called Preeti, was she said the general everyday person who doesn't know the difference between the different kinds of medicine, they hear the word integrative and they think, oh, this would be great. The best of all forms of medicine is really what I want. So, what kinds of things could you ask someone you're considering working with so that you can understand, are they coming from a vitalistic perspective, or are they coming more from an allopathic perspective? Because they have to be based in one or the other. There is no integrative perspective. You either are restoring health to the body, you're treating the person, or you're treating the disease. So, what do you think? What are some things we can leave people with that can help them understand a practitioner that they're looking for and how to make that choice?
It's a hard question, Eli.
I know.
One thing that I find myself saying is that no matter who is in front of me, I'm using the same process. My process does not change, right? I do my 2 hour visit. The second visit is about labs. The third visit is about treatment. And the treatment consists of foundational healing and then, vitamins, minerals. So it's the process, no matter who is in front of me, is the same, right? Because I'm not following some kind of protocol.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a good measure.
Well,
I'm not
maybe you
sure.
ask them, what are you trying to do? Maybe you ask your practitioner that you're considering working with, what is it that you are thinking that you'll do with me? What are you treating? Maybe you ask them that simple question. If I come to work with you, what are you treating? Because someone who's coming from a vitalistic perspective isn't going to hesitate. They're going to say, I'm treating you. I want to restore health and wellness within your body so that it can do what it was designed to do, right? That's going to be their response. If they say, well, I can use natural medicine and therapies to treat your hypertension, maybe that's not, if what you're looking for is a vitalist, maybe that's not the practitioner. Now, a vitalist is going to still get the hypertension. They're going to help you and your body get the hypertension under control. We're not going to directly try and control your hypertension, because your blood pressure was fine at one point in your life. What happened to make it not fine? That's what we got to figure out. And I think that's true for everything. Now,
Yeah.
as always, we have to remember, acute emergency medicine is different. Then you need to get yourself to the hospital or ER where they could put stitches in or set a bone or stabilize you, right? I'm talking chronic health here. You want to add to what I said?
Yeah, I was agreeing with you that we are not, even though we are not treating the disease, we are treating the person, so the symptoms go away on their own, right? Because your body is now restored to health. And so that adaptation that the body did in order to just live doesn't have to be there. And that's a longer, I feel like, uh, conversation because I just threw in a new word. Uh,
of adaptation. But
Yes.
that's what the axioms are about,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the axioms, which I'm going to air. So Dr. Letitia Dick Cronenberg and I did that. What makes a vitalist different? Like all doctors say we do no harm. All doctors say
Yeah.
we try and use the least invasive to the most invasive. But those aren't laws. That doesn't govern medicine.
But just a quick summary of what an adaptation
Yes,
is
please.
that, when the body is lacking in something or is stressed,
Or
the
poisoned.
body is just trying to live as best as it can. And so it has to let go of certain things in order to live. And that is the adaptation. And that's when we get disease, right? I like to use the example of um, hypothermia. So let's say you fell in ice cold water, right? And someone brings you out. Well, what happens is that your body is trying to protect your heart and your brain. And so if it has to kill the digits, it's okay, right? It's
Fingers.
just trying
Right.
to live, right?
Digits as in fingers, people.
Yes. Right? So it the priority is the heart, the vital organs, the heart, the brain. And so
Kidneys.
it, yeah, so the blood circulation is going to rush there. And so if your fingers are getting numb, it's because the body is trying to protect the vital organ so that you can live.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you can live without
that's the
fingers.
process. Yeah,
Yes.
because you can live without fingers. Now, that's the process the body goes through when it comes to disease, right? Say you have a magnesium deficiency, a calcium deficiency, right? It is leaching that calcium from your bones so that your heart can work um, fine, right? But then you get osteopenia, osteoporosis, right? You're getting that disease because you have a deficiency, but the body is trying to help you live. So once you restore that health, the body no longer needs to leach calcium from the bones, right? So that's how you start to fix things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the adaptation that we were talking about.
And it always works, y'all. It always works. This isn't a clinical trial where 60% of the people do better and 40% that. It always works when you restore optimal function to the body will function optimally. And for every person, that's different. That's important to remember. But because we can self heal, things that have been broken a long time can heal. I mean, how else could we regrow our bones and like nobody's doing anything to regrow the bone. Your body's regrowing its bone. Or you get a cut, your body is repairing that all on its own, right? You don't give a medication for that. You keep it clean and your body repairs it. It's like that for everything. Even your heart will make new pathways when you start exercising. If some of your vessels, right, have become partially blocked or they're not working the way they should to carry blood, and you start exercising, always letting your doctor know you're going to do that, right? You always do that. But your body's going to form new circulatory pathways. Even in the brain, when we've had brain damage, your brain can create new neural pathways, um, like after a stroke or something like that. It creates new pathways because we're self healing. So, integrative, do not be sucked in by this promise of integrative on the surface. Integrative can mean a lot of different things. Make sure that your person, your doctor that you're considering working with, is doing what it is you want them to do. If you just want to, not really make a lot of change, it's hard work. It is hard work. So I always try and discourage people. When they call me, I try and to make it sound like it's going to be the hardest thing they've ever done. And those folks that stick around become my patients, right? If that's what you want to do, then rest assured your Vitalist is integrative by default. It's built in to vitalism, right? This idea of integrative, because the Vitalist will use every single thing they need to use to restore your body to health, whatever that tool is. Pharmacy, surgery, imaging, labs, herbs, food, lifestyle change. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters what they're using it to do, and that's to restore health. And the same is true on the other side, right? You can have someone coming from a more allopathic perspective who was doing what Preety was talking about doing before she had that switch. They're using these tools to treat conditions and diseases and diagnoses and not the person. So wade through that integrative stream very carefully. Know that a vitalist is integrative by default. We use what we have to. And do you have any closing words or wisdom or things you want to say to our listeners before we go?
There's also this idea of minimal invasion, right? So while you were saying all of these things that we use as tools, we also have this idea of minimally invasing the body, right? And
Yes.
so it's steps that you're taking. It's not, your first step is not surgery for most parts, right? Like it really depends on the person who is in front of you. It's so individualized, right? And so if someone needs a pacemaker, they need a pacemaker,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that they're not dying the next day, right? You
Yes.
need the person alive in order to treat them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but at the same time, you're not going, even again, that minimal invasive, it's not just with drugs and surgeries, but also with herbs. You're not giving them a bag full of herbs or supplements to get better.
Right.
So,
Right. Just what they need to restore function.
yeah.
Yeah. We should do this more. I love
Yeah, it
talking
was fun.
about medicine with you. Well, listen, everyone, thanks for being here on Vital Wisdom today with me, Dr. Eli Camp, and with my guest, Dr. Preety Shah. We'll definitely put her contact information in there if you're interested in reaching out and working with her, but she is busy. She's right. She is a busy doctor. And why is that? And that's because she's getting people better. Like what she's doing with folks are restoring them to health. And when that happens, people talk to each other. I'll see you next week. I'm not exactly sure what we'll talk about, but it'll be something awesome. And I hope you have a great week until I talk to you again.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.